Tomorrow on the midday at 12.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather at Cape Canaveral and Bob Schieffer in New York.
Good evening. There she is, the Space Shuttle Columbia, poised for her launching tomorrow morning from Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center here in Florida. That's the same launch site from which Apollo 11 took man to the moon. Astronauts John Young and Bob Crippen are ready. The countdown is proceeding on schedule, and the weather outlook is good. Bruce Hall reports on the final preparations for the blastoff.
Just after dawn, astronauts John Young and Bob Crippen got into their modified shuttle training jets for a final rehearsal before tomorrow's scheduled launch. They also practiced approaches at the Kennedy Space Center landing strip, which they would have to use if the mission is aborted in the first 4.5 minutes. During the flights, the astronauts were trailed closely by escort planes, which would be used to help guide the shuttle to the runway in case of an emergency. Meteorologists say the weather outlook is continuing to improve, but there will be ground fog in the morning.
About 50% of the ground will be covered by fog tomorrow morning. It'll tend to be in the low-lying areas, small clearings in the brush and things like that. It'll be generally wispy in nature and shouldn't obstruct viewing of the actual launch.
At the pre-launch briefing, NASA Associate Administrator John Yardley said this mission is less risky than the Apollo 11 moonshot, but admitted a major mishap would seriously damage the nation's space program.
Obviously, there is some risk. A lot of people think that would be the death knell of the U.S. space program. My personal feeling, it would be a big setback. It would probably cost us 2 years. But the shuttle would come back and the space program would come back and it would be a success.
The doctors say the astronauts are in excellent condition. They have already gone to bed and will be awakened about 2 a.m. for a breakfast of steak, eggs, and orange juice before going on to the shuttle a little before 5.
I have a feeling we're going to go tomorrow.
Bruce Hall, CBS News at the Kennedy Space Center.
What's the matter, Harry? Old chopper's coming loose, huh? Oh, boy.
When you wear dentures, there's nothing funny about loose spots.
The answer? Today's Fix-A-Dent. Fix-A-Dent helps fix loose spots, fills those tiny gaps between dentures and gums with ingredients that give added dimension to holding.
Harry!
Uh-oh, look who's coming.
He's no big problem now. Neither are my loose spots.
Hi!
Today's Fix-A-Dent helps fix loose spots.
Bye-bye.
My mother wouldn't admit her age, but I'm 32, and 32 looks a lot better to me since Moisture Wear makeup. Moisture Wear actually helps skin over 25 look younger. It's makeup and moisturizer in one, smooths away dryness. Even tiny crow's feet seem to disappear. Who cares about age when your skin looks this terrific?
Moisture Wear makeup by CoverGirl.
Helps skin over 25 look younger.
It's hard to realize that it was only 20 years ago that cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin in Vostok 1 became the first man to orbit the Earth, opening man's exploration of space. Since then, of course, there have been giant strides, including spacewalking and putting man on the moon. Now, the Columbia is on the verge of pioneering a new use of space. Sitting on its pad, nearly ready to go, this first of the space shuttles looks like a flying Batmobile. It is designed to become a cargo plane for outer space, a kind of space truck. Columbia and the cluster of rockets that are supposed to help boost it into orbit around Earth represent a whole new era of spaceflight. The shuttle is one of the most complex space vehicles ever built. Perhaps the first true spaceship, because it is built to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, land like an airplane, and after being refurbished, roar into space again and again, 100 times over the years. About the size of a DC-9 airliner, Columbia's first flight out is scheduled to last 54.5 hours, 36 orbits. Later shuttle missions are to carry military equipment into space, repair or recover satellites, and maybe someday, help in the construction of space stations. But that is in the future. This week's scheduled flight is to test fly the whole concept. The only space shuttle flights to date began with this awkward sight. Piggyback on a 747. At 20,000 feet, separation. And flight on its own. Then a glide back to landing. It all looked smooth and easy. However, development of this space shuttle has been anything but smooth and easy. It has been plagued by technical and budget problems, cost overruns, and delay after delay. Though NASA officials now say everything is set for this maiden voyage, there are lingering doubts about the outcome of the mission and deep fears for the safety of Commander John Young and pilot Bob Crippen.
5, 4, we have a go for main engine start.
This is the first time American astronauts will fly into space a vehicle that has not been fully tested. There have been successful engine tests, but there have been no unmanned flights of the shuttle. Commander John Young.
I think an unmanned flight of a manned spacecraft, and I always have thought that it really wasn't necessary. And if it were necessary to do such a thing on this one, it would cost many dollars and slip the program many years, and I don't think we could afford to do that.
There are new features of the Columbia, the latest in space technology, designed to make the shuttle functional and flexible. But their reliability is unknown. The computers, 5 onboard computers, will make virtually every flight decision with limited capability for the crew to take control. It has never been done this way.
I think the computers are the things that enable us to do the mission at all, as complicated as this vehicle is.
The bay doors. These huge doors run half the length of the Columbia. They should open for the crew to work in space, but they must open to release heat built up from the electronics on board. And they must close for a safe re-entry. There could be problems.
We can use this extra vehicular capability with pressure suits, and Bob Crippen will go out there and use, if he has to, use his winch to close the door. So we think we can handle that problem at any time in orbit.
The heat shield, necessary to protect the Columbia and its passengers from the 3,000-degree heat of re-entry. For the first time, this protective barrier will be formed from small tiles, over 31,000 of them. There are worries that if even a few are damaged or fall off, as has occurred in testing, there may be a zipper effect, that many others would be pulled away. This could be fatal.
See, the tiles are put on individually, so it's hard for me to imagine a zipper effect.
What it comes down to is faith. Faith is sometimes dependable, but this time there is untested space technology. Faith in the human factor, people such as these launch controllers in Florida. Faith even in the elements that, until recently, had a desert runway at Edwards Air Force Base in California under flood conditions. When 2 workers were killed last month at a launch site accident, another cloud seemed to move over the Columbia. At a time when so many questions are being asked about the competence and quality of American technology, the success of this mission, whether we like it or not, has taken on a special symbolic importance. The importance of trying to prove that American industry and ingenuity are still preeminent. But such reassurance won't come until and unless the Columbia and its crew get off well and return to Earth safely.
It's a home, but it's like no other home. A place you're proud to be and to be from. 'Cause it's your home, and it's like no other home.
At Gallery of Homes, we'll find the one home you can't wait to move into. And find it before anyone else does.
Neat house, Dad! Who lives here?
Maybe us. Gallery of Homes knows there's no place like your home.
Out of the blue comes the ice blue freshness of Aquavelva. Out of the blue comes the Aquavelva man. Looking for the light scent, the clean scent, the fresh scent that comes from out of the blue. There's something about an Aquavelva man. Be one.
There are reports tonight that Israeli troops in helicopters and backed by artillery fire from gunboats staged a large-scale raid into southern Lebanon. A Palestinian military spokesman in Beirut said it seems to be a rather big attack. There's no comment from the Israeli military, but sources have told CBS News that the attack appears aimed at a number of Palestinian guerrilla bases and was not directly connected with the fighting in Beirut. The leader of Poland's Communist Party and the leader of the country's independent union Solidarity were both openly criticized today in separate meetings in the city of Gdansk, where the Polish labor rebellion began. Doug Tunnell has our report.
When party organizers in Gdansk asked First Secretary Stanislaw Kania to visit them at the city's Lenin shipyards today, even Poland's leading communist could not refuse. The Polish Communist Party, under pressure from both the Soviet Union and its own rank and file, has ordered its leadership back to the factories to get in touch with the working class. So in the home of a local branch notorious for its close ties with the Solidarity Union movement, Kania listened to some bitter criticism of the party's national leadership. In reply, Kania tried to reassure the workers that Poland's Communist Party is still capable of reasserting its authority. Workers charged the Central Committee of having lost all credibility in the eyes of party members. Some demanded that party leaders responsible for Poland's economic ills be forced to trial in a criminal court. What would have been heresy a year ago was broadcast nationwide. But Solidarity, too, has not escaped what at times seems a national passion for holding Poland's leaders publicly accountable for abuses of the past. The Independent Union's National Committee opened 2 days of strategy talks in Gdansk this morning. Around the table with Chairman Lech Wałęsa were some hardliners within the movement, like Jan Rulewski, who has openly accused Wałęsa of caving in to government pressure to end last week's general strike alert. The deputy chairman of Solidarity, Andrzej Gwiazda, published an open letter to Wałęsa implying that the union leader overstepped the bounds of his authority in calling off the nationwide strike. Doug Tunnell, CBS News, Warsaw.
The Reagan administration for the first time said today that right-wing extremists in El Salvador are as dangerous as those on the left. What prompted the State Department comment were the killings last Tuesday of as many as 30 unarmed civilians in a suburb of San Salvador. Officials said that Salvadoran Treasury police are believed responsible for the killings, and a department spokesman called on the centrist government to control right-wing elements. This is not the first time, of course, that those who are supposed to enforce El Salvador's laws have been suspected of violating them by committing atrocities. Bruce Morton reports.
On December 2nd, 1980, in El Salvador, someone, government security forces, some believe, murdered 4 American women. 2 Maryknoll nuns, 1 Ursuline nun, and 1 lay worker. Today, the head of the Maryknoll Order and the brother of one of the dead women told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee the State Department is conducting a cover-up, failing to press an investigation of the killings, unwilling to talk to the families about them. They also attacked UN Ambassador Jeane Kirkpatrick for labeling the nuns political activists working for the left, and Secretary of State Alexander Haig for suggesting the nuns could have been shot while running a roadblock, a theory the evidence seems to contradict.
Why have 2 high officials in the present administration found it necessary, directly or by implication, to plant seeds of distrust and suspicion regarding the personal integrity of the women and their mission? Is this all a result of fear?
The bottom line, Senators, is why is the State Department expending so much time and effort to smear the memory of my sister and lose me in some forgotten corner, when important questions such as who is responsible for the death of 4 American citizens go unanswered?
A State Department spokesman said today the department never intended to smear the dead women and does not believe it has. As for the murder investigation, one U.S. official said the Salvadorians are investigating, that they've made some progress carrying out scientific tests just within this past week. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
The Chief Magistrate of Barbados today ordered Ronald Biggs extradited to Britain to complete his prison sentence for the great train robbery of 1963. Biggs escaped from prison 11 years ago. He'd been living in Brazil, but he was kidnapped by some soldiers of fortune last month and brought to Barbados, which is part of the British Commonwealth. He's been in police custody since then.
Jackie, guess what? I booked another round-the-world tour.
Great. Have some coffee.
Oh. Whoa, only half a cup? I thought you loved automatic drip coffee. I do. It's the caffeine I can do without. That's why we're drinking Brim decaffeinated coffee. This is Brim? A new kind of Brim, specially developed for automatic coffee makers. Brim automatic drip. To taste this rich, I won't stop at half a cup.
Fill your cup to the rim with Brim, new automatic drip.
The problem is air. Because moving through it takes horsepower. The solution? A car high in back and low in front to cut drag and turbulence and increase efficiency. The 1981 Buick Regal. If you like the looks of our new Regal, that's fine. But we didn't make it better looking just to make it look better. The new aerodynamic Buick Regal. At your Buick dealer now.
Police today found another body of a black male in Atlanta, where 22 other young blacks have been slain. John Cheyenne reports.
The latest victim was identified as Larry Rogers, a 21-year-old mentally retarded black man who disappeared last week. He becomes the 23rd in Atlanta's long series of murdered black children and young adults. His partly decomposed remains were found by chance. Police had responded to reports of an abandoned green car, but apparently not the one witnesses have linked to the disappearance of Rogers from an Atlanta street. Checking a nearby uninhabited apartment building, investigators discovered the youth's body. Earlier, police released a composite drawing of a light-complexioned black man seen with Rogers at about the time the victim vanished. Police quickly spread out in teams to question neighbors. Some of the neighbors recalled that another body was found in the same building a little over a year ago, but clues in the latest death are hard to find. It's a neighborhood of high mobility where tenants come and go, where buildings live and die. Derelict tenements quickly get their windows broken or are boarded up to become playgrounds for children or hiding places for corpses. Now, with 23 known dead and 2 still missing, this section of northwest Atlanta is just one more neighborhood where, for fearful parents, death is just down the street. John Cheyenne, CBS News, Atlanta.
Earlier this week, the Democratic chairman of the House Budget Committee, James Jones, announced his own proposed cuts in the budget, an alternative to the Reagan plan. Well, today, the Democratic chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, Dan Rostenkowski of Illinois, announced his ideas for a tax cut, a package that calls for a one-year cut of $40 billion. He says that his plan would give more tax relief to low and middle-income people than President Reagan's 3-year plan. Rostenkowski's plan is backed by the House leadership, but he says it is not a Democratic alternative. Rather, he says it is a consensus package because it matches the spirit of the Reagan proposal. The Senate Budget Committee today approved President Reagan's defense requests of $194 billion. That is $5 billion more than the administration originally asked for. About 10 years ago, the House turned down a couple of proposed designs for a new Army tank, saying they were too gold-plated. Instead, the Army was told to come up with an inexpensive version. Well, that hasn't worked out, but there's a new tank coming, and it may be worth more than its weight in gold. Robert Shackney has our report.
The M1, the Army's new battle tank, may be the best tank ever built, as the Army claims. It is also the most expensive. At more than $2.6 million a tank, today's price tag is nearly 3 times the Pentagon's original forecast. In the first year of production last year, costs charged by Chrysler, the prime contractor, escalated so sharply that the Army ran out of money after buying only 90 tanks instead of the 110 tanks originally contracted for.
As the cost reports began coming in, we saw that the costs were running substantially higher than our budget would permit. When we analyzed the reasons, it became painfully obvious to us that we had rather seriously underestimated the inflation.
The Army concedes the problem was more than just inflation, that design and schedule changes and manufacturing difficulties added to the cost. In 1973, taking inflation into account, the Army's estimated price was an average of $905,000 per tank. By 1976, it was up to $1,400,000. By 1979, $1,770,000. And in 1980, after the first year of assembly line production, $2,680,000. In 7 years, an increase of 195%. Chrysler officials won't comment on camera, but privately they concur that there were other problems besides inflation. The biggest problem, the tank's advanced fire control system built by Hughes Aircraft to allow gunners to find targets at night or in dust, initially did not work and had to be redesigned on a crash basis. It took longer than scheduled to build each tank. To machine the tank's advanced gun turret, for example, required 40 hours of work instead of the 9 hours in the original plan. And parts delivered to Chrysler from subcontractors were faulty, including fuel tanks that leaked, transmissions that failed, and engines that needed to be replaced.
We are from hand to mouth in the production of tanks as we wait for engines. We had planned to be at a production rate of 30 per month in February. It will be this summer now before we reach a production rate of 30 per month. All this contributes to inefficiencies because we're not coming up, and it translates into cost.
The soaring costs of the tank program are by no means unique. Last year, the Pentagon concluded it had underestimated the costs of its major weapons programs by $48 billion. Robert Shackney, CBS News, Washington.
A federal grand jury in New Haven, Connecticut, indicted Edward Richardson today on 2 counts of threatening President Reagan. He allegedly threatened the president in 2 notes, one found in his New Haven hotel room, the other sent to actress Jodie Foster. Despite similarities in the cases, officials say there is no evidence to link Richardson with John Hinckley, who is charged with shooting Mr. Reagan. Besides Richardson, 5 others have now been arrested in the last few days for threatening the president, including one man in Raleigh, North Carolina, who has already served time in prison for threatening Presidents Johnson, Nixon, and Ford. Mr. Reagan's doctors say he spent his best day yet today and is raring to get into the fray on Capitol Hill. Bill Plant has that story.
A leaner-looking Ronald Reagan is shown in this White House photograph admiring the 4-by-5-foot photo mural of his staff gathered to wish him well. The picture of the president was taken yesterday and released today. Doctors say Mr. Reagan's temperature remains normal and that they still plan to release him this weekend. The White House staff is attempting to bring Mr. Reagan's economic package back to public attention, the reason for some more congressional visitors today.
I said to the president, we may be in disagreement sometimes, but we agree with your overall goals.
There is not enough agreement in the Democrat-controlled House, however, to suit the president. He gave House Minority Leader Robert Michael a letter expressing disappointment over the House Budget Committee's stand on his economic program, and in a postscript added, "I hope to suit up and come off the bench as soon as possible." Press Secretary James Brady's wife, Sarah, accepted a gift for her husband, who is nicknamed the Bear, a 6-foot 5-inch stuffed teddy bear from a London, Ontario well-wisher. Hospital spokesman Dr. Dennis O'Leary said today that he was extremely optimistic that Brady, who was shot through the brain, will be able to return one day to his job as White House spokesman. One of Brady's deputies said later that his staff regards Brady's recovery to date as nothing short of a miracle. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
The body of General of the Army Omar N. Bradley, the GI's general who commanded the invasion of Normandy, was flown today to Fort Bliss, Texas. Bradley was 88. He died in New York last night after dinner with his wife and 3 aides at Fort Bliss, where he has lived for many years. Bradley's body will lie in state over the weekend. Tuesday, he will be buried with full military honors in Arlington National Cemetery. President Reagan said today that Bradley wore the colors with courage, integrity, professionalism, and above all, honor. The former acting head of the FBI, L. Patrick Gray, filed a $5.5 million lawsuit today against the Justice Department. Gray claims that department lawyers violated his constitutional rights by distorting evidence against him to a grand jury that indicted him on charges related to illegal FBI break-ins. He was cleared of the charges last year. And the Defense Department's battle with the Justice Department over, of all things, the phone company continued today. The Justice Department has an antitrust suit going against American Telephone and Telegraph, but the Defense Department wants to keep the phone company intact, feeling that helps national security. Today's salvo came from Justice, where Assistant Attorney General William Baxter said he intended to litigate the antitrust suit to the eyeballs. The stock market was up today.
Captain Gustav Niebaum sailed from Europe with a taste for adventure and a taste for fine wine. In 1879, he chose the Napa Valley, California for his great winery. Inglenook,
a winery still known for its commitment to uncompromising taste. Come, taste Captain Nebom's dream. Inglenook, the proud taste of California.
I'm Johnny Bench. This is Krylon Spray Paint, the other leading national brand. And here comes my fast pitch, so watch close. Krylon Special Formula goes on smooth, just like a professional finish. And just 12 minutes later, it's dry to the touch. No runs, no drips, no errors. The other brand's still tacky after 1 hour. Let's see it again. Krylon dry after 12 minutes, other brand still tacky after 1 hour. Did you catch that? Krylon, for a smooth, fast professional finish.
Columbia is America's first manned space venture since the Apollo-Soyuz mission of July 1975. It means much to the U.S. space program, and it means much to the people of Cape Canaveral, as Charles Osgood notes.
The astronauts are back. And like Brigadoon, Cape Canaveral has come awake again. It's been 6 long years since the last men were launched into space from here. But look, the launch watchers are back, along the roads and beaches, staking out the good spots to watch from. Maybe as many as 1 million people will be out here, seeing with their own eyes. Even on launch day -1, bright and sunny as it was, going to the beach seemed a good idea to a lot of folks. The world press is back. 4,000 journalists here to cover the first space shuttle launch. Lining up again to get their credentials, flashing them at the Space Center guards. Yes, it's busy here again. Important again. Some of the old press facilities that were here before wouldn't do for the space shuttle coverage. They had to be rebuilt. But here they all are again, the encampment of an electronic army. For miles around, you can't find a hotel or motel room for love nor money. For money, some local people are renting out rooms in their homes and condominiums. But many will have to sleep tonight in their cars or campers or out on the beach. So many cars have come pouring in from all over that motorists have been cautioned to carry full tanks of gasoline and supplies of food and water in case the traffic tie-ups get that bad. At the Visitors Center, they've taken a leaf from another Florida attraction, Disney World, with somebody dressed up as an astronaut for family picture purposes, the NASA version of shaking hands with Goofy. Along Highway A1A, the gas stations and fruit stands have put signs up again, the way they used to in the days of Mercury and Gemini and Apollo. Motels and restaurants with names that glittered with space-age pride a dozen years ago aren't so shiny new anymore. The Gateway to the Stars Motel has become a Bible conference center. And the Moon Hut restaurant down the street hasn't been so busy for years. Along the waterfront and all over the Cape, the conversation is about the astronauts and the countdown and the weather forecast for tomorrow morning. As somebody here said, it's like the old moon days. Charles Osgood, CBS News, Cape Canaveral.
We can tell by country mile, by your smile, you've got that brand new feeling.
Kellogg's gives it to you in more great ways than anybody. Like Kellogg's All Brand, no cereal gives you more fiber.
Yes, you've got it, and it shows by your smile, goodness knows.
Or Kellogg's 40% bran flakes with that wholesome wheat taste.
Get that brand new feeling, that Kellogg's brand new feeling. Yeah.
Polident presents Martha Ray, movie star, denture wearer.
Folks, I've used Polident for years, but now there's something that cleans my dentures even better. It's fantastic. New Extra Strength Polident. Watch it work on this tough lab stain. New Extra Strength Polident has 50% more of a special stain remover. 50% more. Gets those stains clean, even in between. So take it from a big mouth. New Polident Green gets tough stains clean with extra strength.
This is CBS.
High school proficiency test win final legislative approval, and Siamese twin girls born at Vanderbilt Hospital. Details coming up next on Eyewitness News.
When I fix a fancy party buffet, I depend on Cure 81 ham from Hormel. In 5 years' time, it's never let me down.
When my family comes over for Sunday dinner, I depend on Cure 81 ham from Hormel. In 10 years, it's never disappointed me. That's dependability worth paying for.
That's Cure 81 ham from Hormel.